With episode 25 concluding the orb story, we now have an understanding of everything that's happened. I think there is still room for people to interpret the ending, but I definitely feel like with the letter, and now knowing what Draco's letter said, it's all but clear what, in my opinion, the author's going for. I think it's completely okay for people to have different interpretations. I want that to be clear. For me, though, it just feels so on the nose now. The letter being basically a deed, ownership to 10% of the profits of the orb book, Movements of the Earth. It explains so much. I thought we were, if this was the same universe, I thought we were so much further ahead. Apparently not. Draka sent a letter at the end of episode 23. We now know what that letter was. Okay, but why the Kingdom of P? Episode 1 through 23 was set in the Kingdom of P. Episode 24 is Kingdom of Poland. That has to mean alternate universe, right? No. At the end of the day, none of our characters that we followed are remembered in history. If anything about their existence exists by the end of the story's run, it would have been rumors, rumblings, old wives' tales, essentially historical fiction. Essentially something lost in time. But who is remembered in history? Albert, and of course one of his students who then proves the heliocentrism model. The idea that Albert got the idea of things moving, not everything moving around Earth, but Earth moving around it, is because of that letter. It gave him a quick spark of inspiration, and he's like, no, that makes no sense. But that curiosity, we indirectly allowed for a character to then support another character to prove this model, but our characters will never get credit for that. And in a way, that's sad. But that happens a lot in our own history, and we just don't know it. We know of the big names who discover things, but what about the people who worked with them? The people who tried to do it before them? Of course they're not remembered, because no one knows their names. This wasn't some alternate universe. This wasn't some Raffle came back from the dead. The entire reason that Raffle looked the way he did was for the viewer. No character in this show who looks at the murderous Raffle that we got introduced to is going to be like, that's the kid from 40 years ago. No, it's a way to show the viewer a connection in a different way, that the pursuit of knowledge isn't just toxic on the religious side, it can also be toxic on the education side. That beliefs, no matter where it starts, for belief in God or belief in science, if left unchecked, can produce toxic things. Without a single doubt in my mind, this is the greatest anime I've ever experienced. I may have my favorites and things, but I'm the type of person who can acknowledge when something is the best, at least for my taste. And there has never been an anime this thought-provoking, in my humble opinion. This will go down in history. Unlike many of the characters in the show who will be forgotten because their death has no legacy, because the stuff we were working with got burned and destroyed, and the only thing that was left was a letter. But that letter sparked curiosity is fucking mind-blowing. Before we jump any further, I gotta mention, we got the Patreon, full and cut live reactions. If you want to see my thoughts in real time, over there exclusively. I gotta say though, thank you to everyone who's been watching these videos. This is the type of show that goes under everyone's freaking radar, and when I usually try to talk about shows like these, no one watches the video. So I really have to say thank you for letting me continue to do this on the channel. I probably would have even if it had 500 views just because it's that good of a show, but typically I can't because it hurts other videos. Thankfully, people actually cared about these videos, and it made it very easy to continue. But man, like, everything about this, it just comes full circle. I was after last week's episode, the Kingdom of P and Kingdom of Poland thing really did throw me off. I was like, it does lend to credibility that what we witnessed could have been like a story, you know, like something that wasn't real in this world and this is reality. But I think it makes so much more sense considering the fact that, especially when you look at the opening and how our characters have been getting overwrote over the course of things, it's the fact that at the end of the day, a Kingdom of P would sound like a fantasy, right? It's a fantasy kingdom. It's something that doesn't exist. But Kingdom of Poland, that's real. The idea that we started this show off with a crazy old man who encouraged a kid to look to the stars. That kid died to protect knowledge, and then that knowledge went to people, and it continued on this trend to the point that we had a book ready to publish, and then it all burned to the ground. And a girl had moments to send something. I knew it had to relate to Raffles' dad, but we knew Raffles' dad was dead. But what could you, like, what would be the reason to send a letter to that home? Give him 10%. I didn't think about the concept that it could be like ownership, like a deed that if anything's ever published under this name, you get 10% of the profits. Is just so great. I was happy with it just being that, but when you see Albert stop saying like, huh, that's weird. Like, why would thing move? Like, why would the Earth move? Like, no, things move. Huh, that's actually interesting. That simple title was enough to give someone who's quite smart the like, huh. And it's not going to happen overnight. He taught there for 20 years after studying. And one of his students, the same person in our own world, who I'm pretty sure, proved the model in our own world, is then the one who did it. The message of this show, it's twofold. One, I like the fact that even though our characters aren't the ones getting credit for proving it, it's the fact that no matter how many times characters fell at the pursuit of truth, in the end, truth did prevail. But I think my favorite part of the message is that in 2 episodes, they showed us, because for the first 23 episodes, religion and faith was more of the toxic thing that was shown, because we saw essentially a cult that they would burn people, they would behead people, because how dare you seek that after? And they were absolutely wrong. But we also now see it from this Raffles point of view of that same type of deranged, blind belief can also be toxic on the, you didn't give me a book, so I killed you. You're gonna burn the notes I needed, I killed you. And the fact that he tried to justify it to a kid. It can be just as bad on either side, and blind faith, no matter where you put it, can be a deadly thing. This wasn't our Raffle. This wasn't the same Raffle we had in the first 3 episodes. This is a character who just so happened to share the same name and looked similar. Which, hell, you can go back in history and there's plenty of people in current day that look similar to people in our own past. It's simply a way to bring the message full circle, and no one outside of the viewer is going to look at this Raffle and be like, oh my god, that looks like the kid from 50 years ago in this show. It's simply there as almost like a metaphor, a message, and I think that's so brilliant. There's a lot of interpretation you can do, and I think there will be arguments about how to view this, and like I said, it's okay to have different opinions, but to me, this is what it's going for, and I think that's beautiful. I think this is unlike any anime I've ever experienced, and to be honest, I'm ready for a rewatch. This is the most 10 out of 10 thing. It has been an absolute freaking pleasure. Your thoughts? Leave a like if you enjoyed, subscribe if you're new around here. Of course, ring that bell. And like I mentioned, we got those full live reactions over on Patreon. And hey, while you're over there, I'll also give you a video shout out. Alright, so today we got Armana, Kev, Joanne, Devil May Carter, Lady Killdragon, Matthew Pizarro, and we also have a Kaku. So I appreciate the support. Please take care, and y'all have a good one.